Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Cloud ERP. This special edition podcast is brought to you in partnership with the Let's Talk Data podcast. I am your host, Jennifer Frank McGrory. We have a great conversation planned for everyone. Today, I'm going to speak with Bill Piotrowski and Chris Perry from the IBM SAP practice. Bill, Chris, and I are going to do a quick introduction, and then we're going to jump right into a little history of IBM, which, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know, is over 100 years old. Once we're finished that, we're going to dive right into IBM and its experiences that they're going through right now with their SAP S for HANA transformation journey and how they're embracing their partner ecosystem to accelerate their timeline for success and growth. We don't have a ton of time, so let's get rolling. Hi, Bill. Hi, Chris. Welcome to the pod.
Hi, Jen. Thanks for having us.
Oh my gosh, so glad. I'm finally glad we got this on the calendar, and it's been really great to connect with you guys and hear about what's happening with your transformation. But before that, let's do a quick round of introductions. So Bill, you want to take a minute and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Jen. Really appreciate you all hosting us so that we can share our story. So everyone, this is Bill Piotrowski, and at IBM Consulting, I currently lead our SAP practice here in the Americas, and my life's passion has been around enterprise transformation, really bringing to life the capabilities that SAP has to help shape and transform business processes in areas like finance and procurement, logistics, enterprise analytics, shop floor operations, warehouse management, really across all the markets that we serve at IBM, including our own IBM transformation, which we're going to talk about today. Chris, welcome to the podcast as well. Why don't you do a quick intro?
Yeah, thanks, Bill. I focus on rapid S4 upgrades. So we call that our rapid move approach, where we've developed a new methodology to basically bring companies from ECC to S4 in record time and at an optimized cost view. I started with IBM about 5 years ago, but my experience goes all the way back to version 2.1, working to implement SAP at IBM Storage Systems Division, and when the menus were actually in German at that time.
I kind of remember that. That's been a minute. Yeah. All right, before we jump into all things SAP and transformation and the partner ecosystem and how you've really engaged with them, I want to talk a little bit about 100 years. So I can relate to like a lot of different organizations that have a 100-year history, but tell me about IBM's 100-year history and how to get it started.
Yeah, the IBM story really is fascinating, and it's really a story of continuous reinvention. So, 114 years ago, before we were called IBM, we were called the Computing, Tabulating, and Recording Company. And at that time, our biggest client was like the US government, like doing census and population counting. And over the years, we've really pivoted the business based on the changing times, the changing opportunities for business and changing technology. So many of you, like myself, might have learned how to type on an IBM typewriter, believe it or not. In the 1960s, we really transformed technology with the System 360. We went through some challenging times that we learned about in the early 90s. We were a big part of the whole e-business craze and around client server. We really redefined professional services and global services with the acquisition of PwC Consulting, which was how I joined IBM back in 2002. And now we're really all focused on hybrid cloud and AI. So this latest pivot and momentum and opportunity through really taking advantage of AI and delivering the maximum amount of business value for ourselves and our clients is really just another step in our reinvention journey, and is something that we've done many times before through acquisitions, divestitures. But where we find ourselves right now is we find ourselves very much focused on really helping our clients and also consuming those solutions ourselves around hybrid cloud and around AI.
Cool. So if I had to ask one of you, I'm gonna go to Chris for a minute. What's your favorite, coolest memory that you have about IBM's history? What would it be?
When I was consultant at one of the big, at the time, Big Six consultancies, and I was working on that IBM project for Story Systems divisions, and they rolled out these little black computers that they told us, this is a new offering. IBM's thinking about coming out with this product. And they were amazing. I mean, I don't know if anybody can remember the grids. They're very large, supposedly mobile, but not so much really.
They were called grids?
Yeah, they were called grids back then. They rolled out this sleek little laptop, and it was the forerunner to the ThinkPad. And since then, that had become an IBM phenomenon, and it really brought a lot of value.
That's really cool. So this thing that I'm using right now, my ThinkPad, used to be called a grid back in the day.
Yeah. It really was the first really mobile laptop that I ever saw or used.
That's really cool. Bill, how about you? And then we'll get started. We'll jump in.
Well, I'll tell you, my most memorable IBM kind of memory, it kind of predates my life, but it's around how IBM really helped NASA put the first man on the moon. And there's a lot of incredibly memorable images where you have IBMers shoulder to shoulder at NASA. And when I think about, like technology, and I think about, exploring new areas, I think about that in kind of IBM's DNA.
That's cool. Really cool. How about that? All right. So there's your history lesson for everyone on today's pod. Let's jump into the content. So guys, we talk about this S/4HANA transformation journey that you're on. We also talk about how you're embracing the partner ecosystem and how to help to accelerate the timeline and success for growth. But before we get to all of that, why? Help me understand the challenges you face and how you've worked with SAP and your partners to solve that. And again, let's take it in chunks. So let's understand the challenges and why you decided to move forward with an S/4HANA transformation.
Yeah, so Jen, first of all, we found ourselves in one of these reinvention moments. And when we looked at our underlying systems and processes, we said, the capabilities that we have are not actually nimble enough for us to pivot into these new areas around hybrid cloud and AI. And so we said, we really need to look at our own estate of enterprise processes, enterprise applications, and as part of that, saying, oh, and by the way, if we're going to help our clients on their journeys to get to hybrid cloud and AI, we really should be doing that for ourselves as well. So we found ourselves in a place where we were looking at, all of our enterprise processes. Many of them were running on our old SAP ECC landscape. And we said, wait, if we're going to bring AI to life to really drive productivity, to drive efficiency, and to drive speed to benefit as it relates to serving our clients in these new areas that we're finding ourselves in, we need to start with making sure that we have the right data foundation and the right enterprise applications foundation. So we are looking at this and we're like, wait a second, we have over 250,000 users on this aging SAP ECC footprint. We have millions of lines of code. We have 30,000 objects, some of which we weren't even really using anymore.
Right. That seems to be the story of a lot of people, a lot of organizations that go through these transformations. They find all this code that they don't need anymore.
Yeah, and on top of that, we had a 14 terabyte database. So we were carrying a bunch of data from businesses that we had exited. For the listeners, probably are aware that we divested our infrastructure outsourcing business to create Kyndryl in 2021. So that's an example where we were still holding on to that data. We had over 500 interfaces. We were serving 170 countries on the platform, but we said, and we were actually still deploying it. But we looked at this and we said, wait a second, if we're going to deliver on some very aggressive productivity, efficiency, cost takeout commitments that we've made to the market, to the tune of, at the time, it was about $2 billion. We've now actually upped that based on achieving those savings. If we're going to deliver on those savings and improve kind of just our ability to be nimble and move with the needs of our customers, we're going to need to really modernize our foundation. So what we did is we embarked on a strategic journey to say, okay, let's look at our SAP ECC. Let's figure out a way for us to leverage what we like, kind of keep the best, and then change out and remove what we don't like. So like kind of transform the rest. So like keep the best, transform the rest.
Right.
All so that we can basically get to a point where we're more productive, we're more efficient, we're doing things more consistently across the markets we serve, and we have better visibility to insights so that we can make better decision making as we're, adjusting and bringing these new offerings to market. So this has been a multi-year journey leading up to what we'll talk about here in a moment, which was really our journey to get to S/4HANA.
Right. So keep the best, transform the rest. So I love that tagline. And in keeping with that tagline, you've got a larger transformation in the horizon. One of the things that I found very fascinating about your story is that in keeping the best and transforming the rest, you enabled a go live in 18 short months. So can you share a little bit about the vision of how you hone in on the key areas to focus on?
Yeah, so what we did is we said, well before we kind of got to the 18 months, we said, let's make sure that we have a proper business case. So let's make sure that what will be a significant capital expenditure, let's make sure we really know we're going to get the value out of this. And we learned this along the way when we were deploying ECC, when we originally kind of deployed the platform. So we said, let's focus on business capabilities. And as we were going through that, we said, we really want to improve quote to cash, improve our record to report capabilities. We wanted to make sure that we were improving the user experience and that we were setting ourselves up for the future from the perspective of making sure our underlying data or our master data was set up in a standard way so we could kind of move away from those customizations. As we looked at those capabilities, we then kind of compared ourselves against industry benchmarks and said, hey, there's definitely value in these areas. And now let's look at what are the capabilities that we already have or the setup in our SAP ECC platform that we already have. That helped us say, hey, that's the part we're going to keep. And then it allowed us to start then saying, okay, here's what we're now going to selectively transform, specifically in the areas of quote to cash and record to report. We looked at the overall options as it relates to the time period. We wanted to make sure that whatever we did, we were getting a very rapid speed to benefit. So what we did is we said, hey, what could we actually accomplish in 18 months? And what we determined was in the 18 months, we could actually do a selective data migration. And Chris will talk about this in a little bit more detail, but that we would do a selective data migration where it allowed us to then keep that best, transform the rest, and actually move the entire platform to S/4HANA in an 18-month window. What that meant was there were trade-offs that we made. We wanted to make sure that there were improvements to the business capabilities in areas of quote to cash and record to report, but we were careful about not trying to take on too many new innovations, knowing that if we could rapidly complete the migration to S4, then what we could do is we could then continue to bring on new SAP capabilities activate new S/4HANA innovations post go live. And it allowed us to then complete that step in establishing that data foundation in really what's a pretty rapid timeline when you think about 18 months, considering the size of our organization and,
Yes.
The number of users that were already on the platform.
So from a project perspective, I think that what I really liked when I was doing some research on this program is, you guys made some hard decisions to take some things out of scope, have them put in other phases. Can you talk a little bit about how some of those decisions were made?
Yeah, so this is all part of understanding how you want to go in and defining what your North Star or your end state that you want it to look like. And we originally started this program thinking about, we're going to want to do CPQ and we're going to want to add BRIM. These are the applications that we're going to support, the pricing of cloud, the pricing of AI, and the billing of those things. We got into that process and we actually had to descope some of them because we didn't want these transformations, these more complex transformations to drive the timeline, because we felt that if we could keep this to 18 months, it would deliver the best value in the shortest amount of time. And then these things can be brought on post go live, but that we could build our system so that BRIM is already there as a business add-in. So CPQ is already there as a business add-in. So we're setting up the foundation of that North Star architecture so that we can easily add these going forward in the future. But that's not to say that this project didn't do transformations. There was over, 150 transformations that were delivered as part of this project. New Fiori transactions, capabilities that were not going to be standard even in S4 that we built into BTP. So, while we did have to descope some things, we delivered a lot of transformations as well as part of this project.
So what I'm getting out of this and what I want to share with everybody, and the reason I asked the question, is that it's okay to strategically rearrange priorities. Things change. So circumstances change, and in order to put the best phase forward, it's better for you guys in the long run to rearrange some of the scope that you had currently in flight.
And because we took that design and we made sure our North Star architecture was able to accommodate that, we are doing those implementations now. Implementing new HR solutions and things like that are going very fast because they were taken into account as we built this upgraded environment.
Right, and you had the foundations there, so people can quicker wins, faster time to value. That's great.
I would also add, we have learned that these transformations need to move at the rate and pace of the organization's appetite for change. And so we moved relatively quickly, but you could also say we took some time. I mean, it was late 2021 when we were doing some of the initial discovery and we were engaging, our executives, and we conducted, workshops, and we spent about 14 weeks doing that. And then it wasn't until the end of the following year that we really solidified it in 2022, and then launched the program in 23, and then went live in July of 2024. I state that because we were moving at a pace at which the organization could move, and we were actually moving very quickly. There are other companies that we work with that actually take longer around that planning. But we found that by focusing on the capabilities, focusing on the value pools, and then focusing on what could be accomplished in a finite amount of time that was in line with the strategy around enabling AI, that's what really positioned us well for really where we were trying to get to as it relates to the end state around really being an AI-led company.
Got it. So one of the key phrases you use when talking about IBM's transformation is unleashing the productivity of our people to fuel IBM's growth. Can you translate what that means for IBM today, and then how it is going to take you into the future?
So at IBM, we really believe in hybrid cloud and AI, and because we do, because we believe in that as an enabler of value for our clients, we said we want to make sure we're doing that for ourselves because we believe in it so much. And so when we talk about unleashing productivity, it is about augmenting our people with really the advanced capabilities of AI, generative AI. And we've done that in a couple of different ways. We embarked on an HR transformation where we introduced conversational AI for our managers to help with basically those typical HR and HR administration type of activities that a manager does. Because for me as a manager, I want to spend most of my time out in the market with our clients and with our team serving clients and with partners such as SAP. But of course, I have an obligation to be a people manager, and so this has really changed my kind of user experience as a manager, because I'm now starting and finishing those HR transactions using conversational AI. As it relates to supply chain and finance, we have similar capabilities around Ask Finance, around Ask Supply Chain, where in order to hit that ambitious goal of the billions of dollars of cost takeout, we said we need to make our people more productive. We're going to augment them with AI. But of course, we can only achieve that if we have common data, which is why the S/4HANA transformation was so important to us, so that we had a common set of data in finance, in procurement, in supply chain, and in all aspects of how we run our business and how we look at the performance of our business. So really, unleashing productivity is all about how we make AI real in the context of these use cases and these functional areas that I mentioned. And this is now like the way that we're running our company is through this AI-enabled productivity and efficiency.
Fascinating. Tell me about the adoption. How has the adoption of AI been received with your users?
I will tell you, it's like necessity is the mother of invention. We really needed improvements. So when I think about myself as a manager and as an end user, I was very heavily relying on kind of that constant refresher on how to use, our HRIS systems.
Sure.
And so being able to start and finish transactions to me made adoption very easy. Now, it was not perfect. Like we actually started with introducing these chatbots when they weren't perfectly ready, but we've also learned a lot by saying, hey, IBM is our client zero, and we're going to prove out these capabilities by not only introducing them maybe a little bit earlier than we're ready for them to be introduced.
Yeah.
But that also allows us to then improve both the efficacy, and it gave us the time that we needed around the adoption, so that as the efficacy got to where it needed to be, that's when really the adoption became almost like second nature. But that didn't happen overnight, because we were introducing it early because we wanted to make sure that we could work through the efficacy in effect in parallel while we still have the legacy processes in place.
We're going to hold that thought right there. Join us for part 2 of the IBM transformation journey, where Chris and Bill will discuss IBM's rapid discovery methodology in more detail, along with a deeper dive into their mantra, keep the best and transform the rest, which will lead us into how IBM is leveraging the best their partner ecosystem has to offer, which includes details around S&P's Bluefield migration, how SmartShift, in the words of Bill and Chris, have helped to HANAtize their custom code, and Tricentis for testing. I hope you will join me here on the Let's Talk Cloud ERP pod for part 2. Until then, I'm Jennifer Frank McGrory. Have a great rest of your day.